Now the new 1000 revs to an amazing 14,200 RPM, puts out 193 claimed horsepower at 13,000 RPM, 83 foot-pounds of torque at 9,750 RPM. The engine is said to weigh 132 pounds. Engine displacement is 990 cc's. The bike features 2 injectors per cylinder, 4 valves per cylinder, and it is the BMW ride-by-wire system. Brakes are 4-piston Brembo radial-mounted brakes, worked great. 320mm discs with the optional ABS I mentioned earlier. Inverted forks, 46mm. Wheels are 17-inch, 10-spoke cast aluminum wheels. 10-click damping adjustment on the fork. Now the bike has fully adjustable front and rear suspension. Something that is very nice on this bike is the suspension settings, the clicks so to speak, are all numbered, so you can immediately go to a number. You're not turning blindly, counting the clicks, so that's really cool. Looks good, it also will work very well. Now the gas tank is 4.6 gallons, which is for a sport bike is great. For the street is also going to be great. We don't know the fuel mileage, but 4.6 gallons is very good. Bike features a programmable shift light. Now before we get into the tech of the bike, which can be a little daunting, there's so much involved. I can tell you it works slick, but there's so much involved it can be overwhelming. I will tell you that there are 4 engine modes, electronic push button set. Basically rain, which decreases the horsepower and many other things, a sport mode, a race mode, and a slick mode. Slick being race slick, so you're going for it, you're racing. Okay, now let's get into some of the magic about this bike. It can be highly confusing, but I'll try to make it more understandable. When you're on the bike, as you use it for a little bit, it becomes very clear what's going on and easy to use. Okay, here's where it gets a little confusing. When I say race ABS, I am not talking just about the ABS brakes. I am talking about a completely linked system with 4 separate modes. The first mode is rain, basically for country roads, racetrack in rain or low traction conditions. Detunes the engine, takes out a lot of horsepower, something like 45 horsepower, up to 6,000 RPM. The power curve is identical, but from there it flattens out and it reduces the power output. There's a sport mode, country roads, racetrack usage. I've got to tell you straight up, a lot of people, including me, went back to the sport mode because it is just fine on a racetrack. Then there is the race mode for driving on a racetrack with race tires. We used it, saw the performance boost, but to be safe, easier riding, most people went back to sport, could live with it all day. Now if you're riding the track every day, every weekend, regular to track days, yeah, you'd probably be in the race mode. Then there is the slick mode. It's for slick tires only for racetrack use, and it really gets wild in what it allows. So those are the modes. When you get race ABS, you also get traction control called DTC, and I'll get into that a little bit later. So what you have to understand about this system is that there are angle sensors for traction control. The bike actually knows the angle of lean, the gear you're in, the throttle setting, and it modulates all this data and then corresponds it to the given mode you're in, rain, slick, race, and then controls the power output and everything from there, as well as the brakes. Now this all may sound a bit daunting and too high tech. I was of that mindset, but when you ride the bike, it all comes together and it works extremely seamless. Very surprising. You can't feel it unless you're looking for it. You can actually crack the throttle in certain places, like say exiting a corner, and you can feel the differences of what the bike is doing. You can put it in rain mode, come out of a corner, just crank the throttle when you should bring the rear end around and crash, and it's just going to manage it nicely. And we did test this to see, the delivery, if there's any jerkiness or if you can feel it. And for the most part, you just can't feel it. It's not there. You know it's doing it. It adds confidence. And that's one of the reasons people went back to the sport mode over the race mode. I mean, I started coming out of a corner, cranking it in the race mode, and suddenly the traction control allows the front end to wheelie a bit. So I wheelie out of a corner, wasn't expecting it from the next mode, and crank the bar sideways a little bit, land a little bit sideways. I mean, that's the way most bikes are. It allows you to have the freedom and move up in your performance envelope seamlessly. And one of the really cool things is you can control these different settings, turn them off and on when you're stopped or even when you're riding, as I did quite a bit for traction control. Basically just to have fun. When I turned off traction control so I could wheelie, do this, do that, have fun, see how the bike delivers different performance things, I was slower on the track, period, because I didn't have the management this bike offers, and I knew it, so I'm not cracking on the throttle the same or anything else. The funny part is, even when you turn off, say, traction control and you can wheelie the bike, it still is going to monitor other things, aspects of the engine and power delivery as you're exiting a corner, so you're still going to have protection. Say leaned over, lean angle, exiting a corner. It's still going to modulate some things, making you better than maybe you are on your own. Now just a few more facts about the traction control, or DTC. The system detects a spinning rear wheel and limits the engine torque with an adjustment of the ignition angle and throttle valves. In slick mode, wheelies are allowed for 5 seconds during acceleration if the lean angle is less than 23 degrees. Now once again, these can be switched off, but this tells you the high level of management this system provides, and it's very noticeable that BMW spent a huge amount of time getting these settings right, because myself or anybody else, nobody was complaining about the management this bike was providing, which is high praise in itself. Now understand that with each function or setting of each function, rain, sport, race, and slick, you're going to get a different power delivery allowed from the bike. It manages that based on lean angle, wheel slippage, all these things. So in rain mode, ABS brakes are on, ABS rear foot is on, lift-off detection, meaning stoppie, that is turned on. You're not gonna be allowed to do a stoppie in that. In sport mode, you're going to have ABS on, you're going to have rear brake activation, ABS is still on, and lift detection, stoppie is still on. Now when you get to race mode, along with the power delivery, ABS is still going to be on, the rear activation of foot brake, ABS is still on, the lift-off detection or stoppie is turned off in this mode, so you actually can lift the rear wheel under braking in the race mode. Now when you get to the slick mode, ABS is still on, and it's basically going to work on the front